Again, our veterans made up, when you look at the population of the colonies, they made up approximately 12.5% of the population. 12.5%. Today, when you look at our veterans currently serving, the numbers are drastically different. We're looking at 0.04% of the population are currently serving in our armed forces. Why do you think that is? Is it because we've lost faith in America? Is it because we lost touch with our American traditions? Did we lose touch with what America is, what we've always fought for, what we believe in? I mean, why do we have some of the lowest numbers when it comes to recruitment and retention currently in our armed forces? I think it's because our society is drastically changing. We have changed so much that people find the American flag, many of them, to be offensive. They find religion, believing in God, to be offensive. They find the Bessie Ross flag as a symbol of racism. I think you can find anything if you continue to make things up, if you don't understand your history, if you don't understand the Constitution, and if you don't understand the beauty of America, the fact that America was founded on the principles of diversity. Stop and think about it. America, this was the place where everybody came when they were fleeing tyranny, subjugation, marginalization, oppression. They came to America. So much so, the French gifted us that Statue of Liberty. And I was at an event yesterday. I'm just going to put my little lozenge in. I was at an event yesterday, and I was compelled to remark on that poem that's at the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. It's named The New Colossus. It's written by Emma Lazarus. Send me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That wretched refuse on your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me, and I will raise my lamp beside the golden door. That is America. That beautiful statue was gifted to us because America became the world's symbol of freedom, liberty, and opportunity for everyone. And when you're talking about tired, poor, huddled masses, homeless, tempest tossed, you're not talking about an elite aristocracy, a wealthy few. You're talking about everyday individuals who are seeking freedom, liberty, and opportunity for a better future for themselves. And in 1776, brave men and women, a mass of the colonies, came together in that colonial army, and they put their lives on the line. They put everything on the line. Those founding fathers who came together to craft the Declaration of Independence, they put everything on the line, knowing that they were deemed traitors to their nation. And if you understand the Declaration of Independence, what is it that we often evoke or memorialize? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator to certain unalienable rights, which among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right there in our founding documents, all men are created equal. Essentially, tired, poor, huddled masses. America is for everyone. America is for everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, or religion. This is the land of freedom, liberty, and opportunity. This is what our American patriots and veterans over the centuries have fought for, died for, and God bless them, some and those of us who still live for the greatness of America and in all that this great nation symbolizes. We've changed over the years. We have an American hero, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought for and died for the soul of America, fighting for equal opportunity, equality of opportunity, not equity of outcome. This is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. A constitutional republic says that power, and by the way, this is Article 1, Section 1 of our Washington State Constitution. Remember, November 11th, 1889. Article 1, Section 1, the first thing they put in there, power is inherent in the people And governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and it is government's job to protect and maintain the individual rights of citizens. Is that something worth fighting for? Perhaps dying for? Our veterans, those sentinels at the gates, those guardians of liberty, to be praised, to be respected, to be honored, to be remembered, yes. And so today, Veterans Day, and in Washington State, we get doubly blessed. It's our day of Constitution. We have a lot to be thankful for. And remember, freedom is not free. But stop and reflect right now. Look at where we're at as a nation, as a state here in Washington. Take a pause. Take a pause. In Washington State, without blame, we have some of the highest crime in the nation. In fact, we just bumped up and escalated to being number 2 in the nation for auto theft. Number 2 in the nation for auto theft. And what does our attorney general do? Instead of cracking down on crime and holding criminals accountable, those criminals who would take away law abiding citizens' individual rights, instead of holding criminals accountable, this attorney general sought to sue the automakers for making cars too easy to steal, using taxpayer dollars to target private industry manufacturers. How dare you make a car easy to steal? That is what the problem is, not the out of control crime. Rape is up 51%, property crime is up 73%, murder is up 95%, fentanyl, the number one killer of all citizens from 18 to age 45. We have all these things happening right now, but yet we celebrate Veterans Day and we talk about going back to the War of Independence and the blessings of liberty. And what I'm saying to you is simply this: we know that they did not die for nothing. We know that that war for independence and the wars that came after were not for nothing. Lives given, lives lost were not for nothing or in vain. And what is our responsibility as citizens, whether you are a veteran, serving, not serving, whether you're just like many of us, an everyday citizen, what I call a career Americans who seeks every day to make way for yourself, your children, your grandchildren, just seeking a better way of life, a career American, again, regardless of race, creed, or color, we are all citizens of this great nation, brothers and sisters. This is the time for us to stand. Think back again when we declared our independence. Can we say perhaps today is the day to stand strong together again, as our veterans have done over the centuries, standing strong for our American values, our beliefs, our American way of life? Is it not today that we should say that we are going to stand strong? We're going to move forward going into 2024. And now, under the principles of self governance, to say we the people, are taking back control of our state. And how we do that in a constitutional republic, because power is invested in the people, that it starts with us, and we vest power into those government officials to serve us, to acknowledge and to enforce the rule of law. That is why we vested power into them to do their job, to serve the citizens that put them in office. This is the time for us to stand up and remember what the Constitution, what it stands for, why it is important. The Constitution is not a bad name. Even Martin Luther King referred to the Declaration of the Constitution as magnificent documents. We know right for wrong. Is it not the time for us to stand together, exercise our self-governance, take back our state and our nation? And I'm talking about by the power of our vote, by getting out, by getting engaged, by knocking on doors, by talking with our neighbors, by spreading the word about what we stand for and how beautiful and how blessed this we are. Do you realize we are born, all of us, into privilege. If you're born in this nation, if you are an American citizen, born, you are born into privilege. And if you are now a citizen who came from another country, have you found that many of them appear to appreciate this great nation more than some people who were born here? Is that not a shame? But what I say to you is this: probably because we've had everything. And those who come here know what it's like to have nothing. I had a gentleman I worked with when I was working in federal government, a Filipino American, a great patriot and a veteran. And he said to me, Simi, in my country, when I was younger, if you did not work, you died. Imagine that. And for many of us and veterans, we understand this. We've traveled around the world. Many of us have served in combat in foreign countries. We've seen death, we've seen evil, we've seen bloodshed, we've seen hardship, despair, and hopelessness. Babies bloated on the side of the road, people living in poverty and despair. But we've also seen people living in poverty with very little, but yet in many countries, they're happy. They're appreciative of what they have because they realize that their quality of life is not determined by their wealth or the size of the bank account that they may have, but by the blessings of liberty of their family, their children. I guess what I'm saying is it not time for us to stand up and realize our blessings of liberty? Is it not time for us to stand and do something? You know, American veterans, many of us who have served enlistment after enlistment after enlistment, we swear an oath, our oath of enlistment. What is it? To protect and to defend the Constitution of the United States. Why do you think that is at the very beginning of our oath? Because the Constitution of the United States of America is the foundation upon which this great nation is founded. And when you live in a state where you have an administration that passes laws that undermines the Constitution, the will of the people, that infringes upon the liberties and freedom of citizens, that is one of the greatest violations you can have. Elected officials who forgot who they serve, or perhaps never read or understand the Constitution. The fact that our Second Amendment rights are paramount. You don't have to be a gun owner. You don't even have to appreciate guns. But the principles upon which this nation was founded, can we not appreciate the Constitution? And if you understood our history, you would understand why it is valued. But if you see what's happening right now in Washington state, where law after law is passed, where we're usurping or attacking that foundation. And what happens when you attack on a foundation of anything, of any structure? The structure crumbles and it comes down. We have cracks in our foundation, my friends, and it is up to us, the citizen, to exercise our self governance, to hold our elected officials accountable and say, no more. We're holding the lines. We're going to unite as citizens, regardless of politics, regardless of again, policy, party, race, it doesn't matter. I'll say that over and over and over again. It is time to put people over politics and to understand our history and the Constitution. This is what the American veteran have always understood. And yet they put their lives in the line to ensure our freedoms. Once again, freedom is not free. And they say that to all of you listening. And please spread the word. Tell everyone you know. It is time for us to come together for something greater than ourselves. And that is the preservation of our nation and our American way of life. And the American way of life, again, is for all citizens, knowing that our diversity is our strength. And when I say our diversity is our strength, it's simply this: we're not meant to agree on everything. That makes no sense. If we agreed on everything, this groupthink, this homogenous thought process, we would never be the most powerful nation in the world. What I'm saying is Socrates understood it, Plato, the Socratic method of dialectic engagement, where we came together and we brought forward our ideas, our thoughts, and we discussed it and we learned from one another. And sometimes We didn't agree on everything, but we still listened. We did so with respect. And the worst thing that could happen was that we left the room with respecting one another. We agreed to disagree until another day. We'll talk about it again tomorrow. But now we live in a nation right now where all that we fought for, all that many bled for and sacrificed all for, we are now, we see others bringing back the principles of segregation, modern day segregation in America, where we say we have to isolate and segregate and differentiate, where we're dividing. You're gay, you're trans, you're black, you're white, you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're atheist. Why? A nation that we called ourselves or was deemed known as the melting pot, which means all that diversity of thought that makes us stronger. Why do we think or feel that we need to segregate when we have that American flag, the stars and stripes, the one flag, the only flag that we need that represents all of us, that flag that our veterans, our servicemen and women over the centuries fought for, many who died for, that flag encompasses all in our diversity, all. And let me say this, and this is for my brothers and sisters who have served. You know what I'm talking about. And for those who haven't served, please listen. When you serve in a unit, when you serve in combat, we don't care what your race, creed, color, or religion is. We don't care what your politics is, and we certainly don't care what your political party is. We care that you're there when you need to be there, that you're ready, that you will have our six, you will have our back, that we can depend on you, that you will exercise your mission with precision, with responsible action, so that we can live to fight another day. We can live to defend our nation another day. We came together, we bonded. Many of us, we had people. I remember when I went to boot camp. As many of you know, I started out as a Marine. 16 years later, I went back in. I found myself volunteering for Army Special Forces. And at age 43, I became a Green Beret after 9/11 and went and served in combat. But one thing we hold common, many of us who went to basic training or boot camp, some of us coming from the foothills of Kentucky, the cities of Detroit and Chicago and New York, the cornfields of Idaho, the prairies of Texas, all different walks of life. And we came and we learned and we bonded. And why? Either it was a shared hardship or it was a shared mission. We found something to unite us on. Now, let me go back to what we started talking. Is America not worth us bonding together right here in Washington State to say that we are a nation, we are a state where people are suffering, where we have out of control crime? Can we not come together and bond to say that we are now wanting to usher in a new time where we have safe streets, better schools? We are dealing with the homelessness. We are bringing financial responsibility back. We are bringing quality of state and civic services to our citizens, that we're not pricing seniors out of their homes, that we're not overtaxing homeowners, that we're not over-regulating small businesses, which are the lifeblood of economy. Can we not come together and unite and stand strong together for a better way for Washington State, a better way of life for all citizens? Why do we always feel that we have to make this political? I've given a great deal of thought in this. I mean, I spoke with the Seattle Times gentleman the other day, and I've got to say, he was quite kind to me. And I've told this to friends, and they said, "Oh, just wait till they print the article, Simi. Just wait till they print the article." But you know what? I don't care. Truth is truth. That gentleman knows what we discuss. He knows who he's engaging with. He has the option to print truth or not, but he understood and he heard my words when I talked about unity, when I talked about putting people over politics. He knows the despair that we're seeing in this state. And I'm hoping our media will now take a position to say it's time to bring truth. It's time to bring unity. It's time to stop pandering to the establishment, the political aristocracy, the wealthy elite. It's time to start bringing truth and love, because truth is love and love is truth. If you care about someone, you speak truth. That's just how it is. By the way, that's scripture. And by the way, Article 1, Section 11 of the Washington State Constitution says we have a freedom of consciousness when it comes to religious beliefs. You can believe, you can not believe. And on that note, Simi Bird, candidate for Washington State Governor, I am not here to judge your lifestyle. I am here to protect your civil liberties. That is my role, my responsibility as governor, to uphold the rule of law, to uphold the Constitution of Washington State and the United States of America. Article 1, Section 2 of the Washington State Constitution says that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. That was number 2 under Article 1 of Washington State framers, those of which, by the way, were farmers and ags, growers. So coming back to our veterans, imagine if we can emulate the characteristics of our veteran community, where we realize that is the mission we should be focusing on. It's our common good that we should be focusing on. That we do not hold an oath to a political party or any special interest groups. Do we not have an oath to the Constitution of the United States? All of us. Not simply because we're swearing an oath because we're re-enlisting or enlisting in an armed forces branch, but because we were born into privileges as citizens. Do we not have a responsibility, all of us, to protect and to maintain the Constitution? You know, Thomas Jefferson said, self-governance, without the training and habit of self-governance, the political vessel is all sail and no ballast. And what that means simply is this: without ballast, that balance, that vessel leaves port powered by that sail, and with no ballast, that ship capsizes and sinks, much as what we're seeing in Washington State and across this nation. Let's emulate our veterans, our American patriots who fought for and died for this nation. It's time to unite. It's time to come together. It's time to set aside our differences, but understand that our differences give us strength and that it is worth it to stop and listen to another person. How many of you have been in a situation where you have a family member that you disagree on political things, ideological things, religious things, but you love them? There it is. You love them. You may argue with them, but at the end of the day, you come back together because you love them. And why? You'll say, well, because we're blood. You know, we're blood. I love them. I have to love them. We're blood. But we're American citizens, Black American, brown American, African American, white American, European. I don't care. Muslim American, Jewish American, Catholic American, commonality American. Is that not like a family, an American family, that we can say we don't always agree, but we are brothers and sisters in this nation, this beautiful experience powered by the stars and stripes and our history, that we can say, you know what, we didn't agree in this, but we're in this together. We're in this together. So we all have an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and the American way of life. We all have an oath. It's time to start acting on it. And we'll talk in another episode about election integrity. We'll talk about that because it troubles me. And I'm not an election denier. As governor, I will be an election enforcer. I will be, well, I believe in in-person voting. I believe and I believe that our right to vote, to have equal access and opportunity to vote, that system should be bulletproof. We should willingly and welcoming. We should be able to say, "Here's my ID." Just like I go to buy something, I have to show my ID. This is our privilege. This is a civil liberty. Why would we not feel that we cannot show an ID? Why do we feel that it's somehow an imposition to gather together and go down and celebrate our liberty and vote in person? Why not? Why would we ever refuse a citizen the right to question or to say, can we see this? Can we do an audit just to make sure everything was right? A servant leadership government would say, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we would have this as part of our protocol after every election to conduct a forensic audit to say, no, we did it. Here it is. Here are the results. We're good. You're good. Feel comfortable in your system, in our system. There's a lot to talk about. Our veterans fought, bled for, and died for that for us. So for people who will say, well, I'm not voting, they're going to steal the election. You may not like what I'm going to say, but that is not honoring our veterans who died for this nation, who died for your freedoms, my freedoms. No, we will vote. And under the principles of self-governance, we will get involved, we will get engaged, we will rally together, we will unite, because you know what? Election integrity is not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not independent, it's all politics. And if you throw politics out, like I like to say to do, this is a citizen right to have free and fair elections, clean, honest elections. Everybody wants it. And if you stop and think about much of what I say over my podcast, what we talk about in terms of lawlessness, homelessness, equality of education, I mean, what's political about that? To say that we want to clean up the streets, we want to bring compassion to those who are dying slowly in the streets, and to understand that giving them more needles doesn't help them, it hurts them. I would assert that we are complicit in the murder of others when we give them the tools of their demise, when what they need is true compassion and help. We need to rebuild our infrastructure of mental health and addiction treatment. There's nothing political about that, is it? There's nothing Republican or Democrat or independent about that. That is just the right thing to do. Imagine that. Is that not a common sense concept to say, set politics aside and ask your question, is this not the right thing to do? Should our schools not focus on academic excellence and leave raising children to parents' rights, and to protect the innocence of our children, and say our schools belong to the community? They don't belong to any special interest groups. They don't belong to any union. They belong to the communities in which they operate and they serve. And who do they serve? Those families and those children. And do we, as an education system, have an obligation to educate at the highest level of quality our children? Well, you know, our Constitution says it is the paramount responsibility of this state. Why are we not enforcing that? That is just simply the right thing to do. That's not partisan. And when we think about lawlessness and the fact that it's out of control in our state, and people are afraid to park their cars for fear that their catalytic converters are going to be stolen, or their cars going to be stolen, or they're going to be carjacked, or that they're going to be mugged or raped or murdered. Yes, it's happening. I gave you the statistics. If we say that it's time to stop that nonsense and hold criminals who would violate law-abiding citizens' rights, to hold those criminals accountable for their actions. It doesn't matter what color you are. It does not matter what your background is. If you violate the law and you violate the rights of others, if you do harm to others, is it not the right thing to be held accountable for your actions? And hopefully you learn and you do not reoffend. Or for those prosecutors and judges who are failing to prosecute these criminals, catch and release, is it wrong to say they should be held accountable to honor their oath of office, to enforce the rule of law? That is their jobs. And I spoke with someone last night at this beautiful veterans event, and a gentleman asked me, he stated, oh no, people in Seattle and King County, they're more focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. I said, sir, stop right there. Since last November, I've been going into those communities, Black and brown communities, all communities, spending a lot of time there. And by the way, I may know something about it. I was raised in Seattle since I was a little boy. And I said, when you have lawlessness in our communities, it is not the wealthy elite that suffer. It's those people living at or below the poverty line who have to live in these poor neighborhoods. They are the epicenters of lawlessness. And here is the facts. This is a statistical fact. They want more law enforcement, not less law enforcement. They want criminals to be held accountable because no human being wants to be harmed. They want safe streets, clean streets for their children to play at. Is that not a common sense request? There's nothing political about it. It's the right thing to do. And when you understand that small businesses, when it comes to all citizens employed in Washington state, 50.7% of all businesses are, or all employees are employed by small businesses. So should we not deregulate and make it easier for small businesses to thrive because they give so much to our community? Why would we not start looking at those options instead of overregulating, instead of weaponizing labor and industries, employment security, and bringing forth new laws like the CARES Act that just says we got to pay more and more, but we're trying to make payroll, but we have to make cost of goods sold. The supply chain is broken. It costs more to do business, and you want to talk about affordable housing. Oh my goodness. Why do we start making it affordable for a builder to build so that he or she does not have to pass those costs onto the homeowner, the home purchaser? These are common sense concepts, are they not? And so, should we as citizens of Washington state not rally together to bring forth common sense governance back to Washington state? I say the answer is yes. And the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of, I guess, political issues, the Climate Commitment Act, or cap and trade, cap and invest, where we know that we're paying 50 cents more per gallon of gasoline and 63 cents more per gallon of diesel. And if you operate farm equipment, they say, well, there's supposed to be exemptions. Well, you tell that to the people who make a living using that equipment that is powered by diesel fuel. That's right, fossil fuels, not electric. And they're providing food for our state and for our nation and for many other nations. And it's costing them so much. How do you think they're going to recoup those losses? That cost of goods goes up. The cost of goods that you will pay in the grocery store goes up. The cost of gas, someone living and again at that or below the poverty line who is making their way through life in a minimum wage job, they are paying so much more per gallon of gas just to get to work. Do you see what's happening? Think about wintertime. We're coming into winter. You know it's colder. Oil furnaces, natural gas, the cost of heating, it's all going up. And this administration tried to hide that. They said, oh, no, we're not going to talk about the reason why costs are going up. But they were caught, and we know. My friends, common sense governance, what this does is it lifts the burden off of people, because with that Climate Commitment Act, it was imposed upon us to penalize those carbon producers, to penalize fossil fuel companies and corporations. But who is it penalizing? It's penalizing we, the people, the citizens of this state, the everyday career American who's trying to make a better way of life. They're the ones who are suffering. We need common sense governance back in Washington state. And the only way we get it is we, the people, coming together. Is it not time to say, I don't care what your political party is. I don't care about your politics. I care about your platforms, your positions, what you stand for, what you will do. What is your resume? If you're running for governor, I want to know, what is your resume? What is your knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job? What is your experience? Any job we have ever applied for, any job we've ever applied for, did we not have to show a resume? Were we not interviewed so that we can look at that resume and their experience and check references and say, is this the person that we feel can do the job? Therefore, we're going to hire that person. Well, as I'm running for governor, I'm simply someone applying for a job to serve the citizens of Washington state. And so, is it not important to know whether I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job or the experience to do the job? And what is the job? To become the chief and executive officer of the state of Washington. You want fiscal responsibility. You want a government that is not just taking money from you via tax and wasting it. Why have we not have a full statewide audit of all state offices, of all state programs, so that we know how the money is being spent, so that we know how those programs and those departments are functioning, are performing? What are the key performance indicators that quantitatively demonstrates the quality of services that are being provided to the citizens of Washington state? Why have we not seen that? What is the summary of findings? Why have we not seen that in Washington state? Do you, the citizen, deserve that kind of transparency? I say yes, which is why on day one, when I'm elected, I will call for a third-party audit of all state programs, all state offices. We'll get a handle on where the money is going, how it's being spent, which departments are functioning and performing to a standard of performance and which aren't. And that's not to weaponize or to penalize or to target or to go after anybody. It's so that we have a baseline understanding of what we need to do so that we can improve our performance of services to the citizens we serve. I have a few questions coming up. I see my friend Taylor is online with us. Thank you, my friends. Good seeing you. And I've got a couple questions. Let's see here. I think we're live. I'm getting some messages saying Simi. It looks like you're actually streaming live this time, so we are getting better. We may not be hitting 100% and all, but I promise you this: we're talking about performance improvement. That's a mindset. It's a mindset that I love. It's what I used to do. So we'll continue to get better. But I'm looking for questions. Someone asked me a question the other day, and they said, Simi, based on these last elections, what we just saw a couple days ago, heartbreaking. And again, we talked about election integrity, and I let you know my position. I'm not an election denier. I'm a realist. I'm an election enforcer, which means I believe in election integrity, and I told you why. It's nonpartisan. It's the right of our citizens that again to have free and fair elections. And so when folks ask me about that, and I tell them, yes, I do want in-person voting. Yes, I do want people to show their voter ID. Yes, I do want to have forensic audits. Yes, I do want those systems to be compartmentalized so they cannot be compromised. There's so much that I want. But how do we make it happen? Well, you have to vote. You have to get out. You have to get engaged. And you need to say, will this person, once elected, bring that to the citizens of Washington state? Will he or she be that beacon of inspiration and hope for the rest of the nation that says that we have some of the best, most quality elections in the nation? That's a vision. Will that person do it? Or will they be a go along to get along, as we've seen with career politicians? So the answer to that is simply, you know what I want? You know what I will strive to do? What we need to do is get me in office so we can make the changes that we need to make. Simple as that. And when we look at the elections, it is we, the people, that decide them. Stop using excuses to not get engaged and not self-govern. We never give up. We never quit. We're talking about veterans. This is a Veterans Day podcast. Our veterans never quit when they're defending our nation. They give all to the death. How's that for commitment? And so if they can serve with that characteristic of service, can we not honor them by giving all to ensure that we are turning out the vote, that we are doing our due diligence, that we are performing as citizens as we should. So there's my answer to that. Be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And you can run, as many are. Well, I'm leaving the state. I'm quit. You can quit and run. But there are many of us who are staying, and we are fighting for Washington State. And when I say that I am fighting for Washington State, I'm not fighting against anyone. I'm not fighting against Bob Ferguson, and certainly not Mark Mullet, who's a kind gentleman, or Dave Reichert, who's a kind gentleman, an honorable person, both honorable people. I'm not fighting against anyone. I'm fighting for everyone. That is a mindset. And when you hear Bob Ferguson, and I'm not talking bad about Bob, I will never call names. I don't do that. I just don't do that. I was raised differently. I've seen Bob talk quite a bit about how he sued Donald Trump and how he sued the auto industry and how he's suing citizens because of violating magazine capacity. Of course, we can talk about the Ninth District and what happened there with Judge Benavides because it's unconstitutional. We can talk about that, and we will have a podcast on our Second Amendment rights. By the way, it's Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution. Y'all know I love the Constitution. What does that say about a mindset of someone who would serve as the chief executive officer of the state when they are proudful about targeting and suing and attacking others when they should be fighting for and protecting the constitutional rights of everyone, not going after them, not targeting them, not trying to take away their constitutional rights, fighting for a better way of life, growth and prosperity for all citizens. That's something we should be fighting for, not fighting against one another, not suing everybody, using taxpayer dollars to do it. And by the way, with our attorney general, you look at the hundreds and thousands. Oh, no, I stand corrected. Tens of millions of dollars that he has spent. And have you seen the cases were found irresponsible and now must pay back millions of dollars in lawsuits, unconstitutional violations and processes? We need a governor with a mindset of performance improvement and creating value for all citizens, not targeting anyone except to lift them out of poverty and despair. It's a mindset. I'm bringing a different mindset. Someone asked me the other day, Simi, this last election, they're saying so many politicians lost because of abortion. And here it is, the A word. I said it. If you miss this podcast, folks, you're missing it. Simi is talking about abortion. That's right, I am. So let me be very clear for everybody to understand. I value life from conception through death. I would hope that everyone would. Is that not a humane thing to value life? But in Washington State, this ongoing battle, this combat between pro-life and pro-choice, and I'm hearing politicians talk about it, and it's mostly on one side that they talk about it because they're using it as political talking points to say, I will stand for abortion rights. Well, we have a law in Washington State, 9.02.110 through 170, and the law states life of the mother, viability of the fetus. And that law that we have in Washington State really aligns a lot with a lot of conservative views. But when I read the law, and by the way, remember that the governor's job is to enforce the laws of the state. And so if you have a law that says life of the mother, viability of the fetus, and for me, I gotta say, the law is the law. And if my wife was on the line, I would choose her life, right? If my unborn child's life was on the line, I would choose their life. It's that's me. But as governor, my job is to uphold the law. And so when we look at that law, what it's saying is if your life is not on the line, mom, or that child's fetus is viable, then you may have presented in a situation where you are incapable to take care of a child, to carry that child through to birth. So what I say as governor, we don't vilify women. We support them, and let's give them more choices. You heard me right. What about the choice of adoption? What about having the support, the financial support? Instead of vilifying them, let's embrace them. Let's support these women. Let's ensure that they have that prenatal care, that they can hear that baby's heartbeat. I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, we have social services. Why are we not utilizing them to help these women instead of using them as pawns in a war, which there should not be a war in Washington State because we have a law that regulates us until we, the people, change the law. I, as governor, will bring programs to support. Does that make sense? And imagine this, educating young men and women, young men to be responsible for their actions. It takes two. That's right. Holding young men accountable for their actions, supporting those young women, also ensuring that young women understand their value in this life. My mother raised me a kid born without civil rights. My mother made sure I understood my value, understood my self worth. We should be bringing more programs into those inner cities. And by the way, it is a shame that 42% of all abortions are Black women, and there's a history there. Why are we not going in and bringing programs to support our citizens instead of vilifying them, instead of fighting a battle where there's no war? People are using it as a political talking point to get elected. Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm telling you straight up. Now it's recorded. Now you know where I stand on this particular topic. There it is. And so we're going to bring programs. We're going to support young women. We're going to lift them up. They're going to understand that they are not alone. We will not vilify them. We will give them more choices so they can continue on with their lives and not regret decisions. That's what we're going to do. That's what I can do. And let me close this portion on this. It is not my job to take away anybody's rights or to tell anybody what to do or what not to do. It's not the job of the governor. 43.06.10, those are the roles and responsibilities by law, RCW, Article 3 of the Washington State Constitution. That is what regulates my actions, that law and that constitutional article, and I know them by heart. I will honor the Constitution, I will respect our laws, and I will support and respect our citizens and bring forth programs to lift people up out of despair, not vilify them or subjugate them or marginalize them. It's a difference. It's a mindset. So there's no battle. And I think the last topic I'll discuss as we're getting long in time. When I heard Hillary Franz, our lands management commissioner, announce that she is stepping down from the governor's race. This just happened, I think, 24, 48 hours ago. I wish her well, as I would wish anybody well. She says, well, she's proud of her service in terms of forest management. And I think we may have different views on that. Well, I know we have different views on that. And we're going to have shows talking about proper forest management. We will bring logging back. I'm just going to say that. We will bring proper forest management. We'll talk about hunting, preserving the rights of hunters and anglers, the North American model of wildlife conservation. We'll talk about that and holding commissioners accountable for bringing that balance. We'll talk about that. But when she was talking about abortion and climate change, and I still thought to myself, why are we weaponizing these things where we should be lifting up our citizens? We talked about the Climate Commitment Act. So I believe what I'm hearing there is clearly these individuals support the Climate Commitment Act. I support our environment, but I do not support causing hardship to our citizens at a time where we're in a terrible inflationary time, borderline recession, and that's another discussion that we could have. I love economics. Why would we bring more hardship to the citizens of our state? What we should be doing is lowering those gas prices. What we should be doing is lowering the cost of goods. What we should be doing is lowering our retail taxes. What we should be doing is deregulating our small businesses. We should be creating value for our citizens to ease those burdens. Those are things that we can control if you understand how to run a government, if you understand how to run an organization, and if you have a mindset for continuous improvement, accountability, and transparency, and servant leadership. These are the things that we can do. That's right. It's not political, really. I mean, I would listen to someone. You can tell me and talk to me about climate change. I've listened to everything. I believe in renewable energy. Hydroelectricity, 65% of our electricity, hydroelectricity. We have a great project right now in Goldendale that's taking hydroelectricity energy storage to a new level through innovation. Why are we not talking about portable nuclear? Portable nuclear, carbon free, clean, which will enrich our state, lower our prices for energy. There are options that are out there. And by the way, it's safe, very safe. There are things that we can do. I plan on ushering in a new era of growth and prosperity for Washington state, this beautiful state. I intend on uniting us. We don't have to agree on everything. I know we won't. I told you. I think it's good that we don't agree on everything. I don't want a homogenous mindset. I'm not for groupthink. I'm not for sheeple. I'm for the people. So there's things that we can do. We're not going to agree on everything, but it's time to rally together to say we need common sense governance in Washington state right now. And it's time to set people over politics. It's time to take aside party differences and get back to our constitutional values, our American way of life, and preserving our constitutional republic, all that our veterans have fought for, and again, many died for. We owe them that. We owe them that. We can do better. We must do better. We will do better. And my friends, we will do better together. That is the difference. That's the mindset I want to bring when we get elected in 2024 to Washington state governor's seat in Olympia. That's right. We're going to give Olympia the bird. And that's something we can all be proud of. So with that said, we're getting better. Until next time, thank you. God bless y'all.